Hi, everyone. It's Corinne. It is Monday, December 2nd, 2019, and I am inaugurating today with this very video a series of videos that I'm going to call Mindset Mondays, because I thought right now it's the beginning of December. It's a time of year that for a lot of us is kind of frantic and crazy, and when work can be either really busy and stressful or slow and stressful, depending on who your clients are. So I'd like to keep this series going through at least December and January, and then we'll see where it goes from there. So today, to kick things off, I thought I would talk about the pluses and minuses of perfectionism and some ways of dealing with perfectionism for those of us who might suffer from it in various aspects of our business. So for example, I am not an obsessive perfectionist in all areas of my life, but there are some things work-related that I am kind of a perfectionist about. So first of all, what's the plus of perfectionism? Well, lots of things. Right? Perfectionism makes you good at the job of being a translator or interpreter because you want to get things right. You want things to be perfect. And certainly no client is ever going to object to things being perfect. But the hard part is that perfectionism can be the enemy of action. Perfectionism can lead us to a lot of inaction or unproductive action because we're afraid of failing and we're afraid of never being good enough. So for example, I find with students who take my classes, perfectionism is a huge barrier to people's marketing campaigns because they feel like, what if I send this email and no one responds? What if I send a marketing email that has a typo in it? I think I should do a better website. And now that's taken me 6 months because I have to get input from anyone and everyone who might want to weigh in on my website. So especially when it comes to marketing, I think perfectionism can have a serious downside, and also to making money for that matter, because if you translate so slowly and so laboriously and meticulously that you're making, way less money than you can or would like to be making, that's hard too if you get to the point where you can sort of never let go of the translation. And one thing that I've faced recently since I got my court interpreter certification is just an aspect of perfectionism that has to do with not being an expert, right? One of the reasons that I feel like an expert level translator is because I've been doing it for 17 years. Whereas with court interpreting, there was a first time. The first few times that I interpreted for the Colorado courts were actually over the phone, but there was a first time that I had to stand there in front of the judge, and interpret and realize part of my anxiety here is I'm not an expert. Because I haven't done it for 17 years like I've translated for 17 years. So I'm going to give you 3 thoughts on how to defeat the negative sides of perfectionism. Number 1, simplify. So for example, when you are doing marketing, think, what is the simplest way that I could do this marketing that would be effective? Here's an example. If I send an email to someone and say, dear Ms. McKay, I'm a French to English translator specializing in international development. I recently came across your website and noticed that you work in Haiti. I provide French to English language support for development entities working in French-speaking countries, and I wonder if you'd be the correct person to speak with about offering my services. There we go, it's done. And it's pretty hard to overthink that, but I also think even though it may not be like the world's most creative marketing message, it gets the point across and it is simple enough that it does not cry out for perfectionism. Number 2, create a process that you trust. So for example, with translations, here's what I do. I do the translation. I have the computer read the translation aloud to me. So if any of you have never used text to speech, I can actually put that in the notes to this video. I'm a huge fan of text to speech proofreading. I do that. Then I either make a PDF of the translation so it looks different and I read that, or I print it and I read that, and then I'm done because I trust that process, that if I listen to the translation and then I read it, and of course spell check and things like that, that is a process that I trust, and I send the translation off. Number 3, just for a second, allow yourself to think about the worst case scenario. When you think of your perfectionist, the negative side of perfectionism, the things that it prevents you from doing, think for a moment, okay, if the thing that I am the most afraid of happened, what would be the consequence of that? I mean, someone once said to me, which was a very helpful tip, like, there are people in the world who have jobs where literally someone could die if they made a mistake at work. If you're a pilot, if you're an organ transplant surgeon, you could kill someone due to a negative consequence of an error in your work. But when you are translating someone's, birth certificate, or most of the documents, I mean, not some of the things that we translate do have those horrible negative consequences if you make a mistake, if you're a, medical instrumentation translator. But for most of us, they don't. It would be embarrassing. It could cost you money. It would be a huge loss of credibility with that client. But the earth would not stop turning if your worst case scenario happened. So I think try those things. Simplify, create processes that you trust, allow yourself for a second to experience the worst case scenario, realize that it wouldn't be the end of the world, and hopefully that'll help liberate you a little bit. So I hope this has been helpful, and I'll talk to you again next Monday.